Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the October 10th, 2024 meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission. This meeting of the commission will be held in person at the location of the main meeting room at Town Hall. Members of the public are welcome to attend this meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if we have technical problems that interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. Okay, after calling the meeting to order, let's do a roll call. Commissioner Rob Sheehan, he is absent tonight. Commissioner Sarah Walensky.
Here.
Commissioner Bill Boyven.
Here.
Commissioner Ed Laturco.
Here.
Commissioner Indra Deb.
Here.
Commissioner Kent Moffett, he is absent as of this moment. And myself, Commissioner Larry Cohen, is present for the record. Okay, next we have item 2, public comments. Anyone here would like to make comments? If you do, you're recognized. Come up, you'll get your few minutes of fame, so to speak.
Start the clock. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, obviously, you've done this many times.
Yes.
So you state your name and state your address, and then
Right.
the floor is yours.
So again, John Hickey, 10 Sarah Street, 62-year resident, lifelong. Thank you for allowing me to come back and speak briefly. I just want to, as the project's moving along on 12 Sarah Street, I'm going to ask the question, who's making sure that the plans that were approved are actually the plans that are being carried out? I've had concerns in the past in terms of things I've been seeing and have had conversations with the commission before. A lot has actually happened this week, and I've been home the whole week, pretty much all day.
I was on site today.
Okay.
Yep.
And so the wall pretty much is all up. It's a beautiful stone wall. The wall, originally I thought was going to be a 3-foot concrete wall. Stone wall is a much more aesthetically beautiful wall. There's plastic in between to help as a water barrier, and then some mortar. I spoke to Mr. Dugani. He's been nice enough to, let me communicate with him since the very beginning, going back in the spring. And he said he's not a structural engineer, but from the conversation with the excavator that, it should be okay. But I didn't know if that's something that had to go by the commission. Did that need to be permitted, or can they just change plans as they go along?
Are you talking about the change to the fieldstone wall?
Yes,
Versus
right,
the concrete?
Right.
I'll let
Yeah,
staff.
right.
So
it's-
asking about the change.
We're not aware that there was a change in height. I'm not sure there was, but we did know that they were switching from a block wall to a fieldstone wall, making use of the material that was on.
Correct. And I don't want.
That was an administrative.
Right, and it's a beautiful wall. I don't want to take a lot of time because I wanted to get on the agenda, but obviously this is shorter, but I just want to get my points out. But it is a beautiful wall aesthetically. Again, my concern is that, there's plastic barrier. Hopefully that lasts, because a lot of the stones, some of it's mortared, some of it goes right through. It starts off at 3, then as you get to the slope in the front yard, it goes lower and lower and lower. So hopefully it retains all the water. I was under the impression it was going to be PVC piping, French drain, going out to the wetlands.
Yep.
The piping that's there is corrugated, perforated, which is not as long-lasting as PVC piping. It breaks down much easier. It gets clogged easier. So I don't know if the plan, if we speak to Mr., or if you speak to Mr. Dugani, if the plan called for PVC piping, because it's not. Mr. Dugani was nice enough to come out months ago when I had a lot of concerns, and he told me the retaining wall would go right beyond the black walnut tree that borders my yard and the next door neighbors, and he could extend the wall a little bit further just before the wetland marker. And then because he wanted to make sure the tree was saved and the roots were preserved, from the wall, that he said the wall could be turned in, and it would actually be better for it to turn in and go toward the middle of the yard. That was on the original plans. The wall stops shy of the tree. There's no turning going across the yard. and the excavator told me that they were done with the wall. The backyard also, I understand it's plateaued up, and you and I, Mr. Cohen, discussed about terracing and, grading down to the 121 level. A lot of that back portion closer to the house is never going to be graded down. So I'm not looking for you to explain everything to me. It's just like, I saw the plans, I know it was discussed, the civil engineer discussed it, I was at the meetings, and I just want to make sure. I haven't seen the civil engineer. I would like to know about the wall, the PVC piping that's not PVC piping, the wall that's come up short of my backyard and is not turning in toward the backyard, where the elevation is like 126 and should be 121. The 3-foot wall drops down from 3+ feet down to much of nothing as you approach the front. I understand the grading in the front slopes down. They opened up the front yard for a tank today. I'm assuming there'll be one for the backyard, as we discussed as well. So those are questions. I just want to make sure, I don't know if it's the Concom or the civil engineer. A lot of this is done. The wall has been done, and the pilings are in for the fence company. So again, we all agreed that everybody was going to stay on top of this project. So I haven't seen the civil engineer. Lucy indicates she came out today. Did you have anything that drew your attention, or did you just come by and look?
I walked around with Rakesh and I spoke to
Banana.
Okay, so at the end of the day, the civil engineer who has the expertise, who knows the plans, and/or yourself, Mr. Cohen, whoever, I'm asking that people come out, as we discussed, to make sure that this project is being done correctly.
and we have been in contact with the engineer today regarding.
Okay, so the PVC piping's not PVC, it's a stone wall. I don't know if it had to be re-permitted. He wasn't even sure if it's structurally,
We just told you that I administratively approved the change to the wall. The
Right.
wall was always going to get shorter as it went to the front. That's not a change.
right.
We will check with the PVC pipe, though, because I wasn't aware of that. We
Right.
will-
We
And-
can, there's photos that we can get from Banana.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
it's,
then I didn't quite understand the thing about the grading at the back.
well, the grading on the back, it was all along was supposed to be brought back down because it's like a mountain where the pool is and that whole elevated height. And I know they're not finished grading. I know it's still a work in progress.
I mean, behind the pool is
Behind
really,
the
really low
pool
now.
is,
Because they've got
there's
a wall
the
there.
wall, the other side, I don't believe there's a pool, or there's a wall at all. They're supposed to be grading there, but they're digging that up
Well,
tomorrow.
that's also going to get another infiltration
Yeah,
trench.
they're doing.
And I understand that. That's what I'm saying. I understand it's still a work in progress. I just want to make sure that whoever's supposed to be overseeing, and the civil engineer is looking to make sure it's carried out. So the stone wall, the other wall turned into stone, that's fine if it's secure. The PVC is not PVC. The wall comes up shy, and then there's a big gap to my tree, and it's all open space that water can come right down because the height in the backyard is still very high. I was told by Mr. Dugani that the wall would come up and turn in and go toward the middle of the backyard. I don't think that's happening from what the excavator told me. So I don't want to get into conversations. I'm just asking that the Conservation Commission, and especially the civil engineer comes out and makes sure that the plans are being carried out.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking.
All right, hang on a second. Okay, now, as I understood it, the corrugated piping versus the PVC, are we talking about the overflow pipe? Is that what
I
we're
think
talking?
that's what he's talking about.
That's what he's
Or
talking.
possibly the pipe, it might also be a pipe towards the other drainage system, but I think that's what he means.
It runs
The
from,
overflow pipe,
Yeah.
from the tanks in front, the overflow.
Well, the thing is, the tanks aren't in, so what pipe is he talking about?
it's the pipe that runs from the beginning of the front yard. It goes underground along the wall, and then it comes out at the end.
Do you mean the French drain?
You're talking about the French drain?
Yes.
Right,
So we should be receiving photos
That
of that.
French drain was not meant to be permanent, though.
right.
No,
So-
no, there was. There was also a French drain.
We will be receiving.
What was there? Could you clarify, please?
Okay, there's what some people have been calling a French drain, but that's just his construction trench that he has there for, for construction.
Yep.
He is also putting in a French drain, sort of under or very close to the wall.
Near the base of the wall
Yep.
to drain any water that goes down.
So
Correct.
we'll ask some questions. That's
Yeah.
fine.
All right, so now I understand. And the wall not turning to the center of the yard, My understanding is that the wall was going to extend towards the center of the yard near the 40-foot no-build zone. That was what I understood.
Yeah, and that was a pretty recent change, I think, for Mr. Hickey. And so, yeah, it's written down as a question why,
All right, so that has to be...
Wall didn't turn.
So that does have to be checked upon.
I mean, yes, it has to be checked. I don't know that it's an issue, but we will absolutely check it.
Yeah.
I have a clarifying question at some
Yeah,
point.
go ahead.
The corrugated pipe that's perforated that you have concerns about, my understanding is a French drain per se has to be a perforated corrugated pipe. When we had one installed around our entire perimeter of our house, it was like 6-inch black corrugated pipe
Right.
with weird, like linear holes. in it.
Yes.
It has to be that so the water can infiltrate.
Correct.
That-
Correct. So the French drain, it has been covered up. It's all, the sod is over it now, so that permanent French drain is covered up. The corrugated pipe was put through. It's the same, that's exactly right. Only I was told that it was going to be PVC piping that it has the...
PVC with holes in it?
With, yeah, that there's a PVC is just a higher grade.
The white plastic stuff? I mean, but I've never seen that used in that
Yeah.
application. I've only seen the black stuff.
Yeah, I
I've
was-
only seen the black corrugated
Yeah.
stuff, and I have a drain
It's not
pipe as
exposed to
well,
UV down there.
made out of that black PVC for the last 20 years, and it has worked fine. It hasn't degraded so far.
Yeah, and I'm just begging the question because I was told it was going to be PVC with the French drain, and it's corrugated, and when I looked it up, it was corrugated, they said, is not as durable, it breaks down faster, and it clogs up easier. So I just want to make sure whoever's overseeing the project, I would think the civil engineers should be coming out, that the right things are being done. I mean, I saw the track record with trees, pools, and other things, so I am watching. And especially because of my concerns, as you are very well aware, with water. So the right piping, the wall originally was going to go to the center of the yard, and then I had asked it to go straight. Then we discussed it a third time, and they said to preserve that tree and the roots, it would be better to cut it and go back to the original plan, this is with Mr. Dragani, to bring it back toward the middle of the yard. But the excavator who built the wall said they're done building the wall, and it doesn't go anywhere. And the dirt, if this is the wall, here's the house, the level's way up here, and it just comes all down toward me still. I'm still waiting to see it excavated further down toward 121.
Well, either the final grading is correct and it's as per plan, and the engineers, my understanding is the engineer will have to certify that.
Right.
Or it's not.
Right. Yeah, so maybe you can get a hold of the engineer and see when he's coming out to look at things. I don't want to get in the middle of it, but I would think he's looking to make sure.
I wouldn't think the engineer would come out for a certification until everything's done.
Right, but my only concern is all those the wall, like they said they're done with the wall, and it's like a retaining wall. It's way up high, like the soil level's way up, and the wall's here. There's nothing blocking it going down toward my property. Yes, it will go out toward the wetlands, but there's a big gap about the length of this table, just completely exposed to my property. There's no wall. The soil level's very high. There should be the wall that should come around to where all the dirt is elevated to 126.
But the
The
grading-
wall, as Mr. Degani said, should come around toward the middle of the yard. That was the original plan.
All right, so if the grading hasn't been finished, it's a work in progress.
Right, but he told me the wall's done. That's what I'm just saying.
The grading hasn't been.
The grading's not done, and I understand that. It's still a work in progress.
Okay, all right.
I just want to make sure people are on top of exactly how it should be done, considering the 4, 5, 6 times that things have not been done correctly. And again, I'm watching out for my property and water. I know you appreciate that, and I appreciate, listen,
Well, the thing I think the commission does appreciate, let's be fair about this, you have caught some things, a couple of them, 1 or 2 things, very significant, that gave us a heads up that something was going on.
Right.
For example, the placement of the pool and, of course.
Trees.
The trees, yeah. I mean, so, to your credit, you have caught some things and gave us a sort of early warning that this has happened, and, we tried to do some things.
and I appreciate it. And lastly, and then I'll get out of your hair, and hopefully until, I'm sure you'll see me again.
We don't always get people that come to public comment, so it's fine.
So lastly, I understand, and I know I'm a broken record, I'm going to say it one last time. I know that the stormwater, the hookups are not done most of the time anymore. It could be on a case-by-case basis on occasion, but basically, we're pushing everything out back to the wetlands, which are already compromised with no trees, as we well know, and we're pushing more water back there. I'm watching storms in Florida and other places, and it's a matter of time before we start getting 6, 7, 8-inch rainstorms that the tanks and the PVC pipes and everything cannot mitigate. And I still think that there could and should be some sort of overflow pipe that could connect to the stormwater drain in the street just for excess. I already know your thoughts about it. I'm just, for the public record, asking one more time, because if that 10-inch storm comes, we'll see what happens. So I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. As you know, I've explained this to you
Yes.
previously, but I'll just say very briefly that the current way we do things is to take water and keep it on the project site.
Right.
And the only time, the person that has the authority as the town's MS4 coordinator is Eileen Coleman.
Right.
And she could, okay, if there's proven to be a problem, we have attempted to correct it, and
Right.
it doesn't seem like it's being corrected.
Right.
Theoretically, she could do it.
Right.
But I don't, I would, so we're not really in that situation.
No, we're not, and the only reason I'm bringing up one last time, because we're in that point of the construction where everything's in place, the tanks, it's all going to be finished. So it's like, now or never, but hopefully the never is not me getting all water, and it's like, oops, let's do something now, 5 years later. So I'm just saying one last time, I know what the lake looks like in my woods because of the wetlands, and this property's been compromised by several constituents.
There's a number of areas on the design where we've tried to have good engineering design to compensate for the fact that the trees have been removed, that it's a large house, putting a lot of water, most of it underground to the back of the yard.
Yeah.
Okay, we're trying to compensate for
Yeah,
that.
we are.
And one of the things that we have is, obviously, we're planting trees, and my understanding is,
Oh, what are those?
Eileen, that large trees are not, the trees that were originally spec'd are not readily available. Is that true?
They're not available at this time of year, so either Rakesh will have to wait until spring to get a lot of the plantings, or he may be putting some in now, but I didn't talk to him this week about whether he got them. I did pass on the information that he could put in smaller trees, but there would have to be more of them. So I
I
don't
mean,
know if he managed to get
the rationale that I think that the commission would see is it's probably better to get in even more, even if they're smaller, more trees, so they're already in the ground and growing
Yeah.
when the spring thaw hits.
Right, I agree 100%. I mean, I'll be long dead before some of these trees really take root and suck up the water that those 150-year-old trees did for years that were cut down illegally. That being said, hopefully in the spring, he will be bringing in, at the request of the Concom, some bigger trees, because there are bigger ones to be had. I know Sarah spoke to that as well. So I'll be looking for some bigger trees to come in the spring as well. I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
For taking time to come out. All right, next on the agenda, we have minutes of September 12th. Okay,
Excuse me? Excuse me, I'd like to speak also with general comments. I'm sorry, I'm on video. I apologize. I could not attend the meeting at this time. May I speak at this time or a general comment?
under public comment,
Yes, please. This is Rich Costa. I live at 8 Sarah Street.
all right, about something not on the agenda, which is, I guess,
Correct.
giving your
Correct.
application.
And I'll try to be brief. I'm sorry, Mr. Cohen. I apologize for not being present to the committee as well.
I don't know if you had your hand up, but I didn't see it, so please continue.
Yeah. I did not, I apologize again. I don't know the rules from doing this remotely, so please accept my apology
Not a problem,
and for interrupting.
not a problem. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'll be brief. I'll try to be brief. Again, I just want to echo some of the concerns that Mr. Hickey thankfully has been bringing up, and I know the committee has been listening to him, and also he has found some things that have been very informative to all of us and have been corrected, or at least trying to be corrected. I'd like to talk to just a couple of those things, if I may. Just to take to regards to the trees and not having them available, it's been a major concern for us since the house has been been started and built. And since those trees were initially cut down without permitting or approval, that will be allowing water to proceed down beyond the normal lot where the trees were sucking up that water. And I understand the correction is to get more smaller trees. I just don't see that as being the solution to fix the problem that was there. And now it's late in the game and you cannot get the correct size trees to try to prevent that. And we're gonna put more smaller trees. I don't know if that's gonna correct the problem. I'm very concerned about that because, again, I live 2 houses down from that lot. And I offered up help when I spoke back at the meeting months ago of trying to find larger trees, and honestly, I just think that that's concerning, and I hope, as John said at the end there, Larry, and the committee, that someone stays on him about putting larger trees there come the spring, if that is true, that we cannot get any in there now. So ideally, please be careful in putting the smaller trees in and make sure that they're allotting a certain amount of larger trees and not taking up that space with smaller trees, because we do need that water to be sucked up that's being produced at that lot. And that was being taken up by the trees that he had cut down. Also, I'd like to make also a last-ditch effort to request, I know that you guys have done plenty of design work and planning of trying to retain the water on that lot that will be coming from these rainstorms, and as we're seeing more and more storms. Couple of things. So that wall that was that's currently been built, and it's not being directed towards the center of the lot as the initial plans I had seen had plotted, and that would help retain the water towards that center of the lot and on the property. Instead of going around the wall, the end of it, and then coming down into John's yard and then eventually into mine as it overflows. So please, if someone could please look at that and make sure that that distance from the side of the property between the two homes of I think it's 10 and 12, Sarah, to make sure that that end of that wall is directed down into the middle of the property and not into the wetlands. And I'd also like to make one last-ditch effort too. I respect the town's decisions to not allow homeowners to put a drainage going to the street to try to drain properties. This is a special case. This is a situation where we're currently having water going down beyond it, even when there was the trees there. Now the trees are gone. We have walls trying to retrain and hold back water. I'm hoping that, I understand that in special cases, there is approval to allow the property owner to hook up to the street drainage for rainwater and such. I'm hoping that can be reconsidered, considering all these circumstances and the laws that he's broken in the past. I would like to not just push this down to be a considerable problem for me being 2 lots away. I'm sorry if I'm talking too long, and if there's somebody that needs to speak, please interrupt me. I will not be offended. I'm just trying to get things in as quick as I can. Any questions so far?
Do you have more?
No, I'm trying. I don't want to reiterate the same things that John has talked about. I think you guys have heard him, and I know he's done a great job in trying to bring things up. And I just want to reiterate that somebody needs to look over what's happening before things get completed and ground gets covered up, areas that should be inspected. And I'm hoping that someone is doing that, and I really would appreciate it if we can get the heads up that things are being done correctly, because that's all we're asking for. I'm not asking for above and beyond, just that that this property doesn't cause problems for neighboring properties. That's all. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr. Costa, thank you for your comments. I'll make just 2 follow-up points. The first is, in case you haven't heard it before, that the general criteria for doing a hookup to the stormwater system is when there's a verifiable problem, attempts have been made to contain the situation on the project site, and it has not worked. In other words, it's sort of like when a verifiable problem exists that we know hasn't been able to be contained. So that's the first thing, and that's not the case in this situation. The second thing is, we also know that when you hook water, additional water into the stormwater system, you are actually putting water in some down gradient area, and it's usually in someone else's backyard. So that additional water could be creating serious problems for someone else.
So I understand that, Larry, and I would hate to have something like that happen, Mr. Cohen. But that's why we have our DPWs that clean out, supposedly clean out our drenches, drench the drainage systems, the channels that are there to move the water out to wetland areas. If those are being cleaned properly and the water is flowing appropriately, there should not be backages, there should not be going into other people's property. That's the last thing I would want. But again, what about my property? What about the work that's been approved to do on this site, and then it's gonna cause even more problems on my property because the trees getting cut down, because of the collection of water from the large home that's oversized for that neighborhood? What about those considerations? That's why I asked for a special case here, which I know there's been, at times been approved to allow people to hook up to that drainage.
Our stormwater system, unfortunately, doesn't always discharge to a stream and carries it away to a major river. It usually, oftentimes, the low-lying area happens to be a wetland, and it happens to be in someone's backyard. All of us have neighborhoods, and we all know where they are, and some people, depending on the situation, would not appreciate having more water and having the boundary of their wet area extended. So it's not as if we can just discharge it to a stream that is self-contained and move it away. It just, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way all the time, and most times, it doesn't work that way. So,
Well, what about my property that's two houses down, that's gonna end up getting this issue that right now, it's currently being drained out to the back of his property, and it'll affect the properties behind him and beyond him. Mr. Hickey is lucky enough where he doesn't currently have water, but 2 houses down has problems we have pump systems because we have water, and this is definitely gonna cause more of a stress problem for the water flow if those trees are not there sucking up the water that it was. And as Mr. Hickey mentioned, the storms are getting much, much worse in our current status of, the way we are. So what about that? How is that addressed by the town?
well, I'm not gonna, we don't have this on the agenda to keep going with this, but I will tell you that we have a highly designed project. We went through it in detail. Mr. Hickey knows this, okay? And we don't always get that from the engineer. The engineer did an exceptional job designing it for high standards. And no credit was taken for water that was absorbed on the previous patio in the calculations. And water that is held by the pool, no credit was taken. And water that slowly infiltrates by the overflow pipe credit was not taken in the calculations. So there are some areas where we're trying to compensate for the fact, and the volume and the rate and peak, the volume of water and the peak rate of discharge, okay, is less than what the previous house held in the design. So I'm not saying this guarantees anything. I'm just saying that the design tries to compensate for the issues that you have mentioned, and they are valid. I understand that. All right. So with that, I think we need to go on with the agenda. So it's, thank you, Mr. Hickey. All right, take care. Thank you, Mr. Costa. All right, so the next on the agenda is the approval of minutes, September 12th. Do we have anything to discuss?
I made some changes, and they've been reflected in the
I saw
updated
that.
minutes, so.
All right, so we're all set. Okay, before we continue, the record should show that Commissioner Kent Moffett has arrived and is present. All right. Okay, so could I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 12th, 2024?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? 600. Okay, the minutes of September 26, 2024. Is there anything significant to attend to regarding those minutes? Anybody? Could I have a motion to approve then?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote, 600.
I can't vote, I wasn't there.
501.
You can vote.
You can vote on the
Can
You
vote.
still can vote.
Remember I said
I
something
didn't
around?
feel
you
qualified
wanted
to
to
comment.
We'll stick with 501. Okay. All right, next we have item 4. Notice is given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting, during which time we have a request for determination of applicability filed by Jeff and Ally Love for the construction of a screen porch within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands. The project is located at 30 Francis Wyman Road in Burlington, and the commission will consider the information and then issue a determination. The application is being heard under the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14, and you may obtain a copy of the application by writing to conservation@burlington.org. Good evening.
Hi,
Okay, so you just introduce everyone who's here and introduce your address for the record, and then you can summarize whatever you would like to say in terms of your project.
sure.
My name is Jeff Love, reside at 30 Francis Wyman Road.
Ally Love, also at 30 Francis Wyman Road. My name is Chrisula Varadakis. I am the designer for the project at 30 Francis Wyman. I work for a company called Architect. We are a design-build firm, and this is what we specialize in. The scope of work for the project includes adding a screen porch on the rear of the property. This screen porch is adjacent to the existing deck. The screen porch will be built using helical piles. There will be no soil disturbance there. We are asking for a waiver of the 40-foot buffer, and we are not within the 20-foot no-build zone. The area where we will be installing, or we're proposing to install this porch is within a fenced area. It's currently lawn, and that's basically the gist of the project.
All right, thank you for that summary. All right, Lucy or Eileen?
Lucy's doing it for the first time?
For the first time. I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I mean, it is within the 100-foot buffer to bordering vegetated wetlands and within the 40-foot no build. I've got the site plan over. It's gonna load, there we go. You can see my mouse up there? No, you cannot. You can see the 40-foot no build, or yeah, the 40-foot no build crosses through about half of the proposed screen deck, but it is in a fenced area on lawn. They're proposing to take out some of the lawn that would not survive being underneath that deck there, and it's going to be stone as is underneath the pre-existing deck. It seems okay.
Do you have any issues or concerns?
I have no big issues or concerns with this one. It's propped up.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so let me see if the commission has any questions, and then we'll just finish this off for you. Kent, anything on this?
Just on the helical piles, I had a job done prior, and they had to bring them, it was a sub-company, I believe, does it?
Techno Medical.
Yeah,
is
the
good
company,
stuff.
but when they came to do ours, they actually did bring in a machine, so I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah.
You said that there would be no heavy machinery?
There's no heavy machinery. This is
Okay.
a small rover. It's on
Okay.
pneumatic tires, so there's minimal damage. There's not any damage to the lawn unless there's been heavy rains. At that point, the soil's a little softer, but it does have pneumatic tires.
Okay. I'm just curious, the size for the new, what's the differential between what's there, the existing deck, and what's going in? Is there like a
Sure.
huge difference in size?
So the current deck is 9, 10, 11, 12, about 13 by 12 feet. The porch we're proposing will also be 12 feet deep. This porch will be 21 foot 8 inches wide. We will be using a portion of the existing deck. So what's happening is that the existing deck stops in a window, and we can't have a wall within a window, so we had to adjust, take off some of that deck portion, and that will be included within the room area.
Okay. Yeah, and I think to Lucy's point, probably whatever's there is probably dead anyways under the deck, so it's just a replace the rock. I don't have any issues, I guess.
All righty. Indra, anything further? Bill, anything further on this?
No, nothing at all.
Sarah, anything?
No.
And Ed?
Nothing to add.
All right, and so the justification for a waiver for the 40-foot no-build would appear to me to be that it's in a fenced-in area that's currently grassed, and there does not seem to be any alternative for positioning the deck any different. Is that correct?
Sure, so the current deck, if you saw on site, I wasn't there to show you, but we can't convert the existing deck to a porch without adding an additional beam, additional footings, about $3,000 to $4,000 worth of additional cost to the homeowners. What is happening currently is the deck is built to support the deck, and the cantilever from the beam to the edge of the deck is about 2 feet, which is fine for a deck. When we have a roof structure now, that beam needs to be, especially the shed roof structure that we have, needs to be about 6 inches away from the front edge of the deck. So it's tough to utilize the existing deck without adding a whole nother layer of footings and a beam in front of it.
Got it.
So that's why we went to the side.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood, thank you. All right, so if there's nothing further, does anyone else have a comment on this at all? Okay, if
There is no increase in impervious area by building this at all, so it doesn't really have an effect, I
Right.
think,
right.
on the wetland area.
All right, so we have some draft documents, a negative conditional determination. And I think I'll ask either Eileen or Lucy to
No, I'm
Do
going to
it.
get Lucy to continue. She's
do a, then
She's on a
Lucy,
roll.
she's on a roll, she'll do a quick review then. And have these documents been given to these folks?
Yes, they were.
Yes, we have reviewed them.
That makes it even easier.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an easy one, which is fun. We have, for Jeff and Ally Love, at 30 Francis Wyman Road, we are referencing a plan provided by architect, an as-built from a previous project that was done here, a narrative and a note from a primary care practitioner specifying the need for a screened porch. They're proposing to construct a screened porch with a shed roof attached to the rear of an existing house, approximately 32 feet from bordering vegetated wetlands that is within the 40-foot no-build. The wetlands were flagged across the rear of the parcel for a previous project, so it's shown in the plans. We are hoping that we will be waiving the 40-foot no-build, and that's specified here. The conditions of this are that there should be straw wattles. We're hoping, I think, along the fence line, the existing fence line. No removal of trees or shrubs, alteration of naturally vegetated areas if permitted. So it's already lawned there, so anything in the wetland that is already flagged and like signed as wetlands. All construction and demo materials and excavated soil shall be moved off-site and disposed of in a legal manner. No tracking of sediments on public roadways. No filling or grading is approved under this decision. And I believe that's it. There's not a lot to this. Am I missing anything?
No, except the only thing is that I, obviously, obviously, after you put it into your
Oh.
folder, I did actually just formalize by calling them Jeffrey and Allison
Yep.
in the
Okay.
actual document, just because,
Those are the
We'll
legal
make
names.
sure that is
just to be more formal,
in the actual document.
because you did point that out, so thank you.
All right, do you, at this point, do you folks have any questions on what you heard on this
I do,
stuff?
I just, the straw wattle, you said in front of the fence, is that in front of the fence on the lawn side, or the front of the fence on the,
Oh, no, on the lawn side.
on the lawn side, okay?
Yep.
Okay,
Otherwise, it would be behind the fence.
Yes, yeah, makes sense.
all right, how about the commission? Any changes by the commission? Anyone?
I just happened to come up with a question. I didn't realize it when I was standing there looking at it. You have a deck, you're gonna extend that to a porch and finish off all the way to where it's mentioned. It's screened in, but what's the ceiling? You putting a roof on it?
Yes, yep, it's a roof
Where's
structure.
the drainage of the roof going?
Towards the front,
Okay.
it's a shed roof, so it starts high on the property and slants outward. I think I had a 3D rendering provided.
We didn't require anything, because it's a pretty small little addition. It can just go onto the grass, it's fine.
Okay, no problem. I'm just curious.
All right, anything further from anyone else?
You're right about the machine. I remember the little thing, I remember what you're saying now.
It's not like a mini
Yeah,
excavator,
it's not like
smaller.
it's not like a construction thing. I remember
Yeah.
in the tires you're talking
Some
about.
helical footing companies will use a mini excavator, but the company we use, it uses smaller machine with.
No, it's actually a pretty neat thing to watch. When they did our pool,
It is.
pool deck, it was pretty interesting to
Yeah.
watch the company do it. So I remember the machine you're talking about.
Yeah.
It won't cause any damage. So I was just curious about.
All right, could I have a motion to issue a waiver of the 40-foot, no disturb,
40-foot no build.
40-foot, that's right, 40-foot no build that's in our wetlands regulations. And because the area is already grassed, it's within an existing fenced-in area, and there's really no other alternative for the position of the deck. That's the reasoning on the motion. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second? All in favor? 600. Okay, that's all set.
Thank you very much.
And then the actual
Get the
determination.
approval.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're getting there.
She was just, I'm sorry, I thought we were.
One more thing. Okay, could I have a motion to issue a negative conditional determination for the conditions as discussed for the project at 30 Francis Wyman Road under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 in the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Again, it's 600. You're all set. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Thanks.
Appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a request for a certificate of compliance, the Blanchard Road Sidewalk, Town of Burlington Engineering Department. And we have a representative here.
Yes.
File number 122-685. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair. My name is Stephen Hildreth. I'm one of the senior engineers for the town of Burlington, and I was the designer of the Blanchard Road sidewalk. I'm here just to seek the closeout conditioning for the notice of intent that was filed, and just kind of review the project as a whole with the commission. So I'd start by if there's any questions from the commission
All right.
or anything of that. I can go
All
a
right,
little bit of
so-
detail, but
I think you should go through the changes.
There are some changes, right, that you have
Yep.
to do in the field? And
Yep.
so I guess you should probably summarize them.
So briefly, I can kind of let Lucy bring up the plans, but
Can you bring this?
Can you make that bigger?
Well, she's going to bring up the as-built, I think. Okay?
if you want to start, Lucy, down the end by South Bedford Street, so top right corner of the plan set there.
Yep. Pop that guy off, zoom way in.
Well, I'll also make it bigger here. Okay?
This side?
You wanted to go right up to South Bedford
It would
Street?
help
Oh, there you go.
BC,
There you
I
go.
suppose,
Yep.
yeah.
I think that's what he did.
All right, so we'll start at catch basin number 1, which is right in front of number 2 Blanchard Road. Originally, this catch basin was proposed to be a deep sump catch basin. Due to a test pit in the field and the location, elevation of an existing telecommunications duct bank, we were unfortunately not able to get that deep sump catch basin in. So we went with a gutter inlet catch basin instead. Lost a little bit of sump, but in compensation, the structure that is to the north of that, it's an existing catch basin, was proposed to be demolished and removed. We instead tied into that to use the offset sump before discharging into the system. Moving down the hill towards South Bedford Street, catch basin number 2. That is a new full deep sump catch basin. There was never any structure previously on that corner to capture any stormwater that had come down that hill. Again, providing a little bit better pretreatment before entering the system. And then catch basin number 3 across the way towards 113 South Bedford Street. That catch basin, again, was proposed to be a deep sump catch basin, field test pit, and new alignment of the roadway showed that the existing 16-inch water main at elevational depth was in the way. So our water department doesn't want to hear this, but that new mini catch basin is on top of the water main right now. So we did the best we could with existing conditions. There was also a duct bank horizontally in the way at the same time that was never known and never marked out. And we found it the hard way without breaking it. But so we would
So-
not have been able to fit
So if I
full-size
understand you
truck.
correctly, you did not opt for moving the 16-inch water main?
Correct.
Got it, okay.
We break that, there's a lot more water involved.
Right. Understood.
Yeah. If you want to go, Lucy, down to the Muller end, it's Plan 2,
Page,
Sheet 2.
yeah, right there.
Okay. So in through here is where we had the kind of best impact for stormwater improvements and conditions. We'll start catch basin number 4. It's the one on the northerly side, the top plan set by number 64 Blanchard Road. That catch basin was proposed to go in. There was no catch basin or any structure there before. The intention was to capture stormwater as it came down that gutter line, offer some pretreatment before discharging overland into the wetlands towards Middlesex Turnpike. Unfortunately, a test pit in the field showed that the elevation of the telecommunications duct bank was only about 1.5 to 2 feet in the ground. That was witnessed by myself as the design engineer, so there was nothing we could do to get any kind of structure or offer any significant improvement to that. Catch basin number 5 was proposed to be a full deep sump catch basin. That was installed as proposed. That added the best improvement. That replaced the direct entry into the culvert that you see that became a solid cover drain manhole over the culvert. And now that the stormwater is collected by that catch basin, offers better pretreatment for stormwater coming down that hill before discharge into the culvert as previously happening. Along the back side of the sidewalk, starting from number 40 South Bedford Street down to the culvert, we installed a 1-foot stone trench to capture and infiltrate the stormwater runoff all along the perimeter. And then right at the Oracle bike path walkway on the left-hand side, during the construction, I noticed that there was some heavy erosion going on. And to combat that, we installed some stone riprap on the surface of the adjacent to the bike path's walkway. And that would allow for the velocity of the water to be slowed and then infiltrated into the stone trench so that it would not bypass over the top of that trench and down the road.
Where's the bike path join that, on this picture? Is it that Y I'm seeing?
Yep. That is correct.
Okay, and the water was, you said something about water flowing down there in a way that you found disturbing?
Yeah, I live right around the corner from the reserve. We originally had our biggest complaint, the Oracle path, which I think is going to be resolved based on the water staying on that side. But once it gets down further where that company is, at, I can't remember the number.
60?
It's the one almost before the intersection.
Yep.
How do you feel comfortable about that? Because it's always been a catch-all for water there.
Yep. So I feel that the water coming off of the Oracle site will be slowed in the velocity coming off to be able to mitigate into the stone trench. And then with the existing drainage patterns that were out there prior to us constructing the project and paving the roadway, no drainage patterns changed. And that's why I installed a double catch basin grate at catch basin number 5 that was previously on top of the culvert to make sure we capture that water still coming down that hill.
Okay.
So I don't think any, and I've witnessed it in storms, nothing has really gotten by, gotten by there. So.
I was one of the ones that adopted those 4 catch basins around the corner. So you see me, water like this was in there. I hope I never see that again,
Well,
especially in the wintertime.
I'm going to date myself here. This is actually the second time I've paved this section of Blanchard Road, and the very first time I noticed water getting by that one individual catch basin, so I put that second grate on there, and that puddle disappeared.
Yeah.
So I knew the importance of that second grate, and that's why it didn't disappear.
All right, so before
I
we
won't
go
say
any-
it's also 14 years ago either.
So before we go any further, I'd like to go over to our staff, Lucy or Eileen. Are you satisfied that this is ready for a certificate at this point, given all the changes?
Yes, we are. As Steve explained, this was 3,400 feet of sidewalk, so all of which has the stone trench. So that was a big improvement just in terms of accessibility on the roadway.
Eileen,
And-
can I interject for 1 second?
Yep.
Not all of it has the stone trench.
Oh, not all.
It is starting from the number 40 Blanchard Road, which is the gas substation going downhill, has the stone trench. Everywhere else was using previously impervious surface as roadway shoulder is now sidewalk. So we balanced impervious with impervious, and where there was an increase in impervious offset with the stone trench.
So there were some field changes that were a little, that's unfortunate, I suppose, as it happens, that some of the treatment that Steve was hoping for just couldn't be achieved. But luckily, some of the biggest improvements, for example, that catch basin that Lucy is just showing right there,
That's catch basin number 5.
On the sort of far left of the picture, that was the one where that was direct entry into the stream from the roadway, and now he is capturing that water, so it's going through a sump, so it's at least capturing your first flush of sediment and preventing it from getting into the stream. Yes, we're not, there's a little bit of, across the, did you stop sharing?
I did not.
That's so weird. There's a little bit across the road that isn't being captured, but that he didn't know all that ductwork was in there. And as he explained, because there's a hill in the middle, the stormwater is actually going sort of both ways. So he's capturing something at either end.
Okay. So the answer is yes, they did the best that they could with the field changes.
Given field changes,
They had to
given
make.
what they encountered in the field, yes.
Okay. All right, so Sarah, do you have any question or comment? Bill, do you have anything on this one?
I do not.
Indra, do you have anything?
Nope.
Kent? I just have two quick
course.
questions. One is it fair to say, in your professional opinion, that the drainage is improved or substantially improved overall on Muller Road? Not Blanchard Road, or is it the same? It sounded like there were some changes, but you tried to compensate for it.
Correct, yes. I would say that they were equal or better to the conditions that they were previously, for as far as treatment and capture.
Okay, so we're not worse off because of the changes.
Correct.
The second thing is you encountered a water main, some conduit. What else? Few other-
2 gas mains, another, so
Some
you had
gas mains.
telecommunication,
So-
2 gas mains, a water main, a sewer, you had another
So here's the
power.
question. What is the state of our existing information that would have told us this was there ahead of time? I'm just curious about that, because it's sort of like,
Yep.
you found all these things in the field, and, oh my God, we have a water main.
No, it's stuff that we know. Our personal records for the town infrastructure that we own, such as water and sewer, have the best records. Obviously, it's ours. Private companies, such as telecommunication, duct bank, the gas main, stuff of that nature, I can request as the designer record plans and locations. They share that pretty readily. The information to help me determine the as-built conditions, so the true field conditions, sometimes differ from company to company. Sometimes you don't capture all the right companies. Companies don't come back to you. So the cases with the duct bank is I knew they were out there. They don't tell you the size and scope of the duct bank. It can be as simple as something as a 2x2 duct bank, so 2 conduits stacked on top of each other, up to potentially a 4x4. They don't tell you that.
So in other words, what I'm trying to understand
Yep.
is, what you're saying is, as designed, you know, but as built, there's some doubt that it's exactly that way.
Correct.
Is that a way?
Yep. And that's why we do the test pits. That's why you field verify data
Okay.
and adjust accordingly, so.
That sounds like the right answer. I just wanted to know sort of if that was the case.
Yes. I wish I could always work on blank sites, but I have to work within our right-of-way. And
Right.
there's a lot of other stuff.
All right, thank you for answering that, Steve. All right, so is there anything further conversation needed? Could I have a motion then to issue the certificate of compliance for the Blanchard Road sidewalk to the Town of Burlington Engineering Department, DEP file number 122-685?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? 600.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the commission's time.
Great.
And thank you to the staff for the help
Thank you
throughout
for-
the project.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a request for certificate of compliance, 23 Fourth Ave, for the Nordblum Company stormwater permit. Is someone here for that one?
There are a lot more photos.
Chris Dallin is online.
I'm on the phone, yeah.
All right, Chris, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Sure. Why don't you introduce yourself and, your role or whom you work for, and then
Yep.
you can say a few things if you'd like.
Okay, my name is Chris Dalen. I work with Nordblom Management Company, and I'm the property manager for the office park. And we just finished a few months ago the pickleball courts across the street from our office at 23 4th Ave. And we were requesting a certificate of completion for that stormwater permit. Underneath that court is concrete, and on top of it is a plastic grate for the pickleball court. Eileen was nice enough to come out yesterday and take a look at it with me in person. We did not play pickleball, but we did look at the stormwater, and it came out exactly as designed, and I think that we are very happy with the way it's performing, and Eileen agreed while we were on site. So just here for a certificate of completion.
So Chris, have you tried it out as playing pickleball on it yet?
One time, it didn't go well.
All right, just want to know. But it met your standards for a pickleball court?
It did, yes, absolutely.
All right, just checking.
Yeah.
All right, so Lucy and Eileen, either one of you have comments on this one?
As Chris said, I did go out yesterday. Not everybody was available to, or was available to go out yesterday. It looks lovely. The pickleball courts are crowned exactly, well, they appear to be crowned exactly as designed. They've got a pretty substantial stone trench. They, in fact, beefed it up from the original design plans. They have one little course of cobblestone just to keep some of the stone dust from getting onto the pickleball court. I think they're pretty happy with how it turned out, and it looks good.
All right.
I have no concerns with it, and I think we should issue the COC.
All right, Ed, any comment?
No?
Sarah, any comment?
No.
Indra, any comment?
Nope.
And Kent, any comment? And Bill, any comment on the pickleball court?
No, not at all.
All right. So hearing, if no one has anything further, I guess, could I have a motion to issue the certificate of completion for the pickleball court as 23 4th Avenue to the Nordblom Company as a stormwater permit? Second?
Second.
All in favor? 6-0-0. All right, Chris, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you on the court.
All right, bye-bye.
Chris, I have one question.
Yep.
For the benefit of anyone listening, is this pickleball court, does it have certain hours? Is it for the use of only people in Northwest Park? Could a resident go over there and play, and do you have to sign up for it? Could you give us a little bit of information on that?
Yep. It's open to the public. We do reserve the right to if a tenants or tenant employees want to reserve it, we do reserve that right, and it'll just essentially have like an A-frame sign out in front saying that, the pickleball court is reserved from this time to this time, and then people will see that and turn around. But for the most part, it's open to the public, open to the tenants, and there's some free paddles out. There's paddles out there that people can utilize, community paddles that people can use if they'd like. And I did talk to the recreation department about I think it was their 50-plus group that wanted to utilize it on a regular basis. That hasn't started yet, but I'm thinking probably in the springtime. And there are lights out there that will come on at dusk, and it will stay on until about 10 p.m.
All right, so essentially, it's anyone can use it if it's available unless it's been pre-reserved.
Correct, yep.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much for that summary.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too, bye.
Bye. Next, we have a request for certificate of compliance, 29 Geddick Road, GRH Homes LLC, DEP file number 122-691. Someone here for that one? Nope.
Is anybody else on? Okay, that's strange.
What about that Cadillac?
No,
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 she's
that's,
not,
It's
she's
here
not.
for the
on that.
discussion.
Yeah, he did. Okay, well, why don't I just describe it to you and we can decide whether or not to go ahead with this, because we're pretty happy with the build. So let me just step back a second. Chris Hickox is the builder. This was a tear down and a rebuild in riverfront area to a locally regulated stream, and some of the work was also within the buffer to bordering vegetated wetland. The house came out fine. He, as you can see, he is discharging stormwater into a fairly substantial drainage system, and he removed 5 trees and was asked to replant 8 trees, 5 for the just in direct compensation for the trees that were taken out, and 3 extra as compensation because the work is in riverfront. As I say, everything turned out pretty fine.
did we get the 8 trees?
We did. A couple of the issues are that Greg did send a letter that, a note that I sent around to everybody, that he doesn't feel he can be responsible for the trees for another year because he's going to be selling the house. He's hoping that he can get his bond back and discharge his responsibility for the trees. My concern with that is that this is a two-season sort of oversight of the trees is standard. It was in his order of conditions when it was issued.
Yes.
I would suggest that he has a couple of options, and I wish he was here that we could pose this to him and we could discuss it. I would suggest that you do return some of the bond, which was for $3,500. I would say, it's up to you, but say return 2,000, keep the 1,500 or keep 1,000, just for the trees, just in case. What he could do is he could ask the new, so he's going to be handing over an O&M plan to the new homeowners for the drainage system. Maybe at that time, he could ask them if they are willing to be responsible for those trees, and they could take over that, 1,000 or whatever it is, bond, if you're.
Well, they could post a substitute.
They could, so they would have to be willing to do that first, really, before we would give him all of his back.
Right.
But that would be a compromise. That is an option, which is why I was hoping he would be here, so we could just discuss it. So the trees are all looking okay, except for the 2 hornbeams. I think that we said, weren't sure how they looked, but it could just be that they are early. Exactly, they did seem to be alive, but they had lacking in leaves, and maybe they're just trees that lose their leaves pretty early, and they might be fine come spring.
Right. Oftentimes, even though it might look sort of a disaster prematurely, as long as they're green, the actual stem things are green inside, they come right back. And if they fertilize, they come right back really well.
Well, we generally don't want people using fertilizer near the streams, but okay.
Yes.
Compost.
Compost,
There you
okay.
go. All right, so let's, Kent, you have an opinion on this one?
No, I think what Eileen proposed sounds fair.
Indra?
No, I'll go with Eileen.
Bill?
No comment.
Sarah?
Sounds okay. You think he'll go along with it?
Well, I guess he doesn't really have a choice, because his order of conditions does say the bond is not to be returned. I don't know if we can share that part. Bond won't be returned for 2 growing seasons until we establish that they're in good shape after 2 growing seasons. I'm just suggesting that this could be a compromise. Otherwise, we're just you're keeping his, say, $1,000 or something. But he does make a good point that once he hands over the house to somebody else, what's he going to do? Go on and plant and water the trees for them? Could be weird.
I'm sure the new owner would be grateful.
He did say, what did he say about that? No, not that. He said, I have irrigation and a drip line for the trees on the side. So there is some sort of irrigation set up there. We just would hope that the new homeowners would be, they're not going to want to see their trees die, surely. But, so, to be discussed.
All right, did I call on everyone? Ed?
I find this whole thing really interesting, especially where I moved into a place 1-year responsibility for the trees you planted.
Right.
Why would it be 2?
Well, yours are always two. I mean, the commission always asks for
Yeah, it's a
Two-
standard
two growing
condition,
seasons.
two
Standard.
growing seasons to make sure it survives.
sometimes three on the other projects, but two is pretty standard.
Does that also stop the owner from planting any trees that might impede anything that they're waiting to see how it does?
Well, no, it wouldn't stop them from planting trees. No.
Okay, I'm just curious to know how this would work.
I guess what's been the past practice?
This-
I mean, this can't be the first time this has come
Yeah,
up.
it seems like a common,
Yeah, it seems like
Past
common.
practice is that nobody objects, and they wait, and they wait to get their money back after. Well, to be fair, he built his house very fast. He's a pretty fast builder, so he planted those trees in April or May of this year. So they have had one growing season, but now he's ready to finish up. So he only got his order of conditions 1 year ago, just under a year ago. It's pretty fast.
All right, anyone else?
The order of conditions is permanent. I mean, it travels with the purchase of the house, right? It goes with the deed?
It is on the deed, that's true.
Right. So the new owners have the responsibility to see it through to the end. Now, they won't have a
But
bond on
if
it,
you
but...
issue the certificate of compliance and he records that, then he's effectively like taking off the order. So
I see. Okay.
that's why we,
Normally, we wouldn't issue it until the 2 years were over.
yeah.
But you're saying to Bill's point, you're saying like, it's not an uncommon practice where like a builder's coming in, buying the house, and then they're in this, whether they turn the house in 6 months or 8 months or 3 months, they're
I
still
can't
tied to
believe that this hasn't come up really in the last 7 years that I've been here, but I don't
Yeah.
remember this being an issue before, that people were particularly objecting. What did you just learn something we should know?
I just learned that the price tag is high. It
Oh.
seems like a small amount of money to be worried about.
Oh, right, well, let's forget about it.
Well, no,
That's the principle of the thing.
Let's just keep the money.
well, I think the only question is, replacing those trees could be anywhere from $400 to $500 each. So, letting some amount of money remain, okay, to cover 2 or 3 trees. If you think 2 trees have dropped their leaves, that might be premature, in case they don't survive, I think it's very reasonable to release all but enough to cover the contingency. So, it's only a question of whether, I mean, if you say it's roughly $500 a tree.
So we could put it to him. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying, I think we should just decide, do we want to leave enough money in the bond and release the balance for 2 trees or 3 trees?
Oh, no, I understand that part, but I mean, are you, but then of that 1,000, say, if it's 1,000, are you saying it's kind of up to him if he wants to try and shunt it off to the other people?
Of course.
Leave that up to him.
If we get a piece of paper that says they'll take responsibility
I'm okay
by
with that.
posting a bond, but that may not happen. If he
Right.
does that, then of course we can do that.
But I guess there's precedent too. I mean, if the precedent's been 2 years and you've opened the door basically for one person, it opens the door for, so I guess that's my one issue with releasing the bond. If it's basically like, if that's been the precedence as builders have not, they did get the order of conditions when this job was done and they agreed to it, knowing that's what they signed in, that's what was done, and
Right.
that was the precedent. But I get what he's saying, I'm not disagreeing, but my point is like, if we make this one concession
But
now,
you're not making a concession.
We do partial
You often
releases
do
of a
that.
bond,
You often
sort of on a
do
regular
partial.
basis
Yeah.
anyway. It's a question of, for this given project, what is left to be considered? And the only thing left, if you're out there, the only thing left is maybe a couple of trees might not make it. That's about it.
okay. No, I'm just saying it, I get for goodwill, I'm not disagreeing with that, I'm just saying,
No, we haven't listed them.
yeah, I get, that's fine.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, so could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 29 Geddick Road, GRH Homes LLC, DEP file number 122-691.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. Could I have a motion, how much was the bond?
3,500.
So could I have a motion to release 2,500 of the bond for 29 Geddick Road, to GRH LLC for DEP file number 122-691, and leave $1,000 bond remaining, okay, unless the applicant gets the new owner to post the $1,000 for the remaining bond, in which case his bond will be released, the balance will be released. Is there such a motion? Second.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? 600.
That's out us. That
What was that, Ed?
The builder's held responsible for a whole year with the development we just went through. I was asking those questions. When we take care of these trees, if something happens, one died, he had to replace it.
Sure.
Those were big trees too.
Sure.
I think that's the right thing.
Are you all just looking at the price of the house?
No, I'm looking at the northern lights,
Oh.
visible locally in extremis.
Wait,
Very strong.
Right
local.
now?
They're visible here,
Yeah.
outside?
Yeah.
What are we doing in here?
we have a little bit more to
This was
do.
about a half an hour ago?
All right. Could I have let's go to the next one. We have a request for a certificate of compliance, 84 Wilmington Road. This is to Manalisha Bora, DEP file number 122-683. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi.
All right, so introduce yourself and your address.
My name is Manalisha Bora. I'm the owner of 84 Wilmington Road, Burlington property.
All right, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
All right, so we were out at the site. Lucy and Eileen, do you have comments on this one?
Does Manalisha have something to say first?
There were a lot of conditions when we started building that house. We believe that we did meet all the conditions so far, and we are requesting the certificate of compliance and the bond money. So.
Right.
So this was exactly the same issue in that it was a tear down and a rebuild in riverfront area as well. Manalisha was a little bit more complicated in that there was quite a lot of to and fro. They made some changes. They changed the porous driveway initial plan to an asphalt driveway, but with some stone trenching, and you all agreed to that. There was a minor engineering change. There was some misunderstandings or miscommunications about some of the clearing and the trees, and Manalisha agreed to do some additional planting and some sort of restoration planting behind where we sort of agreed on a lawn line, a new lawn line, and she was going to leave a restoration area behind that. So let me just say, I've made some notes. They did purchase 13 plants, which they put in. The order condition actually did say shrubs. That was the basic requirement. But I know that I think I was a bit confused because I knew that they had some of what was on your list of that you put in actually were trees. So I thought it was shrubs and trees. Like they had put in some, well, dogwoods I guess are shrubs, but there was a couple of trees in the, let me see, the Chioanthus virginicus, they're fringe trees. Anyway, so they had put those in. 4 of them were not faring well very recently, so she just, within the last, 2 or 3 weeks or something, replaced 4.
The new ones, yeah,
Yeah.
in August end or September. Just the day after the survey was done.
So she did replace them recently. And then she had also put in some additional fruit trees, I think.
Some flowers, shrubs, some blueberry, and then one extra.
Oh, they were also able to downsize the size of the chamber system because once they did test pits, they realized the soil was a little bit more suitable for infiltration than they thought. And again, that was approved. I think that one may have been an administrative approval. So there were some changes along the way with this one. So it was a tiny bit more complicated. I have one question for Manalisha, and I want to leave you with something similar to Greg's. So what we had said, my understanding was that the area, oh yeah, do you see the middle, it doesn't really matter. Go back to that middle one.
The middle picture.
Okay, that area
Slow
where,
and slow.
no, that's fine. That area where all those new trees are being planted, that was supposed to be left largely wilder, and clearly there is some sort of mowing going on there. She said it wasn't with a mower, so my question is, what are you using to keep the grass down? Because that's supposed to be a wilder area.
We are actually not mowing that area at all. Like mowing is only done in the lawn, and in the other area, actually it's nothing. It's not been growing that much. My husband is cleaning, I don't know what does it call, with hands, small thing with hand you can clean up. He's cleaning only the
Trimmer.
tree areas. It's not machine at all,
Shears,
with hand.
Like a hedge.
shears, yeah.
Yeah.
Shears? Really?
That's what that would be.
Okay.
Still, that's cutting.
Well, okay, you might want to just remind her that she's not supposed to.
Yeah, no, we know that
But-
we are not supposed to use any machinery in that area.
She's actually in the same position really as Mr. Hickox was, in that we had also said that the trees should be in for 2 full growing seasons before you would return all of the bond, and hers have been in for 1 growing season as well, and she's just recently replaced them. So I would actually suggest that you do the same, that you return most of the bond, but keep a little bit in case we go back in a year, we check in with her and all the trees, a lot of the trees have died. That would be my suggestion. I know Manalisha doesn't want that, but that's the way the order is written.
So you are saying, could you repeat that summary again? You were suggesting what?
The bond in this case was 2,500. I'm suggesting you give her back at least 1,500 of that, but keep, similar to Greg's, keep some money for replacement of trees if they don't survive.
Which is a standard practice.
It is a
We do
standard
this all the
practice.
time
We do
anyway.
it all the time, but it's easier when it's the homeowner. because
Yes,
She's going to keep good care of the trees, yeah, because she's going to get her $1,000 back.
right.
That's the point.
All
But
right.
I would say maybe $1,000 will be too much. Those are not really trees, those are shrubs and not that expensive. And we will definitely replace those because we want that tree line to grow. So it's about like $20, $25 per shrub. So maybe we'll keep it for,
I would suggest you keep at least 500, because otherwise there's no incentive for her to come back
Right.
and go through
Right.
this. Okay,
Okay, thank you for that information. All right, so Ed, anything on this one?
No, I just want to add something. Alongside the garage, you have your pavement, and then you got that little ravine down that goes down. There's about 10 pieces of asphalt, about that big, that
Oh,
you
my
might
God.
want to remove, because
Newer
there's a lot of
stuff
growth going on there. Just take them out, that's all.
yeah,
You can see them when you look through the leaves.
I see.
write it down.
Nothing big.
Okay, okay, I'll tell my husband. That is just to come from the garage to the backyard because kids are running around all the time, so, yeah, okay.
I did actually forget one thing, that, so she had removed the wattles and had left a lot of the stuff there, which she says she's going to get rid of, but there's also another compost heap, it looks like, in the area that's actually closest to the stream. So I would suggest you might want to suggest just one pile somewhere, preferably not near the stream.
All right, okay.
I have a concern here, though. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, like, not my neighbor, in the backside, and there's stream going from their house as well. Like, I don't know, maybe it's an old house built there. But when they mow their lawn, they're like piling up all their stuff next to the creek, though.
Are you
they are?
talking on the left side there?
Yeah, in kind of in
noticed
our
that
back.
as well.
Did you see it
There's
yesterday? It's like a
pile of-
big pile, like substantially
Can you send
big.
them a note?
I could. Do you mean do you mean behind? Was it the property
Like,
behind?
you know, there is a, if you
It's to
cross.
the left, as you
34
face the
Livingston-
property and back to the left.
Okay.
You know the
Yeah,
address of
I
the
know.
property?
What is that?
The address of the property, do you know that?
I don't know, I can look it up, but it is like you go from, you cross our house, after 2 houses you pass and you make a right turn, not the first house, I think the second house, yeah.
So it's on Beaver Brook.
What is that?
On Beaver Brook?
Is it Beaver Brook?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, it is in a, either second or third house in the Beaver Brook,
We
yes.
can send them a note too. We can make contact. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so Sarah, anything further on this?
No.
Bill?
No, I agree with holding at least a small amount of that to cover these. These are very small shrubs, and they look very tentative for the surviving over the first winter or whatever, so I think we need to have some insurance.
All right, Indra
Same thing, yeah.
and Kent.
I agree with Bill.
Okay, so I did notice that also on the tree in back, you're coning it around the base of the tree. We talked about that.
Yeah.
So you'll remove that?
We will remove that because we thought this is good for a tree. We didn't know that, so
Well,
we removed it. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
told a while ago by a tree person, said you need to remove that because you're going to kill your tree.
Sure. We thought it's good to like put some mulch or,
All right,
you know,
so you'll do
things
that.
around
That's
that
fine.
tree. So we'll remove that.
And is there any other cleanup required on the back of the site? I think removing the compost heap and the straw wattles was basically it.
Or at least just,
Taking the plastic off.
just make one pile, maybe, and not
One
have,
pile away from the stream.
yeah,
Away-
away from the
As
street.
long as it's away from the stream.
Yeah.
So my question is,
You can have a
given that it
compost pile.
appears to be cut in back there somewhat, is there any kind of a seed mix or anything that needs to be thrown down to encourage sort of a habitat, or will it revegetate all on its own?
Did you already put some seed down back there? Remember when you pulled out all
No.
those trees, is that just grasses
Natural.
that came in naturally?
Naturally. Yeah,
I mean,
we
it's
did
gra-
not do
it's kinda
anything.
gra- It's kind of grass and weeds.
There's probably not too much point now. I mean, were there bare patches? Did anybody particularly notice?
Not too much. It wasn't exactly a natural habitat either.
No, but I would just suggest that she leaves it to be more naturalized. That was the point of that area,
Yeah.
of leaving
So-
that area.
So will you do that and leave it to go to be natural?
Yeah,
You will, okay.
yeah.
All right, okay, so in that case, if there's nothing further, could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 84 Wilmington Road for Manalisha Bora, DEP file number 122-683?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor? 600. Could I have a motion, how much was the bond?
2,500.
Could I have a motion to release $2,000 of the bond and hold the balance for the two growing seasons for the shrubs that were required for DEP file number 122-683?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, 600.
Okay,
You're all set.
all right. So two growing season is gonna be next year or next to next year?
It will be next fall, so next
Next fall.
October. So I just put a little asterisk here to put a note on my calendar,
Okay.
Lucy's, to just get in contact with you if you don't remember to get in contact with us.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
Say, can we go out and take a look at your trees? And
Sure.
If everything's looking good, then administratively, we can give it back, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Then
all right.
we'll just say, yes, you're good to go.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming in. Have a good.
Thank you. Thank you. You all have a great
Sure.
night. Thank you.
Next, we have a continued public hearing, proposed revisions to the stormwater and erosion and sedimentation bylaw. Okay? This is a continued hearing that we're holding open. And if there's anyone listening, I will just say that what we are doing is trying to set up our bylaw and regulations similar to how the wetlands bylaw and regulations are set up, where the bylaw gives the authority and the regulations gives the details that are contained in the regulations. And I would note that almost all surrounding communities do it this way, because as conditions warrant, we're able to have hearings and make changes for things that work or do not work, or improvements occasionally. For example, Lexington has a bylaw, it's only 4.5 pages. But the regulations are 36 pages. They have a lot in there, okay? Wilmington, for example, has a 3.5-page bylaw. Bedford has a 13-page bylaw with 23 pages of regulations, okay? So most people set up their bylaw with regulations that are supporting under that authority, okay? So if we wanted to change the specifics of a rain garden, okay, the way it is now, we'd have to go to town meeting, go through that change if we wanted to make sure that the rain gardens actually drain, and we wanted to put a specification on it, because a lot of the rain gardens sometimes at homes are not working. If we wanted to just say something as simply that the plan that's submitted, we want trees over a certain diameter marked with an X on the plan. We have to go, I mean, I don't think, I may be wrong, but I don't think, not only is that cumbersome, obviously, for the commission and for the staff, but I think it's somewhat, certain things, I think, like the details, technical details, I just don't think town meeting wants to necessarily be involved in that. I may be wrong, but that's, if we have some details on the quality of discharges to a vernal pool, and we want to give some specificity to that, or more, something change in how we do something, again, that would be contained in the regulations. And so oftentimes, we require some indication on the plan for driveways that are either crowned or they have to indicate some spot grading so that the water doesn't discharge into the street. Many builders that we work with regularly do know this, but, I mean, we think we often might want to put that on the plan or put it in regulations, so something is required to indicate. It might just simply be a note. So that's kind of the rationale in my mind. Would anyone, by way of introduction, like to say anything more about what we're trying to do here on the commission?
Yes.
And then I'm going to go to you for details.
My understanding is the main idea of this is to split out the specifics from what gives us the authority, so that we have regulations and we have bylaw and regulations to standardize it the way other regulations and bylaws are done within the town, like our wetlands bylaw, and we have regulations. So now here we would have stormwater bylaw and regulations. At this point, we're not intending to add anything or make any changes at all. We just want to separate it out format-wise so that if there are minor changes to be made in the future, they're more easily done. We still would not do any changes to the regulations without open public hearings, like this one. And we will be drafting the first set of regulations to go with the bylaw. Probably for our next meeting, we'll open a public hearing on the regulations, if I understand correctly, so that at town meeting, when we do propose this new abbreviated bylaw, we have in our backup material the regulations that we are
And they will
proposing.
see everything that's in the bylaw will really be anything of technical detail. What's in the current bylaw, they will just find it in this draft regulation.
Right.
Right.
No significant
With
changes
no
planned.
significant changes.
Correct.
No, we're not proposing any significant
Right.
changes. Now, I'd like to open it up. I know we have one person who, good for her, Susan Cadillac is here and may have an opinion on, or questions about what we're doing. However, I wanted to say that we have a long history of when we do changes to our regulations. We have a documented history of reaching out to the major players in town who we think would be interested in what's going on. And we send them a copy and we say, do you have any comment? Okay, so in the business community, in the real estate community, we have done this again and time again to seek comments. And we have gotten back comments which have improved the pragmatism. When this original bylaw was drafted, which I'll say was my creation, I think, in 2005. I did the original draft. One of the things that we came up with by soliciting comments is how do we not inconvenience the homeowner, okay, for one of the, managing stormwater for an addition or for essentially a half-acre lot. how do we do that, or the builder, I guess, if they're the current owner, how do we achieve our goals without necessarily having every single person come in for a hearing and a permit? And we came up with an arrangement of a two-tier arrangement, that a stormwater permit, a full permit requiring a hearing, would be above a certain size. And I think right now, the threshold seems to be that most homeowners do not meet that threshold. And so then they apply for an administrative permit with a standard set of conditions from the conservation staff. And did I get all that right?
Yep.
Okay. And so the intent was to achieve proper stormwater management, proper erosion control, without unnecessary inconvenience to the homeowner who simply wants to just get their project done. And if I think, would you say that's been successful?
I think so. And just one addition, if you don't mind?
No, please,
before
I'm
anybody else.
going to stop
I
talking.
just wanted to say that this is also a requirement of our EPA stormwater permit. So, under the 2003 version of the permit, we were required to create something like a bylaw or some sort of regulatory
That's when I did it, right.
procedure, which is what Larry originally wrote. That has morphed over time. We're now currently working under the next version of the EPA permit, and that required us to make some other changes, like, for example, the requirements on larger projects to reduce phosphorus specifically and to reduce TSS specifically by proscribed amounts. And then just over time, as Larry explained, we have reviewed it and have decided that just with the pace of development and redevelopment in town, we needed to make some changes in order to protect downstream neighbors, like Mr. Hickey, for example. So our bylaw, like that of many other towns, has become, gradually a little bit stricter over time. That's really all I have to say. I just wanted to point out the regulatory requirement that this is.
All right, so what I'd like to do, Bill had some comments. Anyone else on the commission have comments on this? No? Kent, anything? All right, well, I see Susan, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Why don't you introduce, I know who you are, but you want to introduce yourself for the record and state who you're affiliated, which I also know, but you probably should state it for the record when they're doing the minutes.
Sure. Yep, sure. My name is Susan Cadillac. I am a Burlington resident. I am a local builder, also a member of the General Bylaw Review Committee. So just wanted to, just comment on a few things, hearing what you guys are saying. I don't believe it's an EPA requirement that this can't be in our bylaws. It's not an EPA requirement that this has to move out of the bylaws, correct?
Say that again. You don't believe it's an EPA requirement? What? I couldn't.
You were saying that this is something that we have to do because the EPA requires it. Does the EPA require that these move out of our general bylaws?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying that we have to have a regulatory process because of our EPA requirement. That's all I'm saying.
Right,
Okay.
but there, no, it's not, it's absolutely not required. As
Okay, so this isn't, so I just wanted to make that clear, that this change, this is not a change. Okay.
As you know, we could leave it the way it is, and for every little change, we'll be, we might be regularly back for small things to town meeting, and it certainly can be done that way.
Yeah, I think, Burlington is unique with our stormwater being under the purview of conservation. In most towns, it's actually under DPW. So when you go to, say, Bedford, and you're building on a lot that does not have conservation, stormwater is going through DPW. So you're not going in front of conservation. So we are a little bit unique in that regard. The previous stormwater bylaw changes that were proposed initially We're going to require public hearings for all single-family homes, even ones that, could be built by right, and projects as small as a two-car garage. We're going to fall under that. So I think taking changes away from the eyes of our town representatives might not be the best move, because I think it's important for the residents and their representatives to know what changes are being proposed, and to have a chance to have a say in it. Because I think without our current process, our current regulations would actually be a lot stricter, a lot more expensive, and a lot more cumbersome for residents and homeowners. And I'm just trying to figure out what, if changes have been, made already. I guess I'm just trying to find out what the purpose is for moving this away from the eye of town meeting.
All right, well, I will tell you, my answer to that question is the purpose is that if we make little bit of changes, okay, that are technical in nature, it relieves the burden of going to town meeting for that, which is a somewhat cumbersome process. I understand that to a certain extent, I guess you have to have a certain amount of trust in your elected body. And I think the Conservation Commission has garnered enough respect over the last 30 years to know that we think we're one of the most reasonable boards in town, and we therefore, being pragmatic and consistent with what other towns do is what we're all about. So I understand that, that some people, maybe it's you, maybe it's not, may have some degree of mistrust of what we're doing, but we are, as far as I'm concerned, we are being completely clear and transparent. And I also want to say something else. One of the things for the type of things that we have going on in this town is pretty much built up. There is very few clear lots where we are clearing greater than 20,000 square feet, and at least for homeowners, okay, and we're building a new house, okay? Redevelopment has its own particular set of conditions. Now, I don't know what we could do to make it easier on the regulated public and still achieve protection, but I've had in mind that we might want to take a look at what, for redevelopment projects, what are some of the unique challenges? Because I think our bylaw is great for sort of new development projects, new projects. I mean, is that, Eileen, do you have any comment on that?
I think that we are, as you say, most of what we are seeing is redevelopment. And I think it is I think it's reasonably, okay, it's not clear. I actually think our bylaw is a little bit hard to get through, but I think
Well, what is not clear?
How much, when we say that we want water to be maintained on site, I think that could be clearer in like telling well, not so much property owners, but their developers and their engineers, what that means and how much water we do expect to have. For example, if you're using chambers, what sort of storm do we really want contained in those chambers? That's not super clear.
Right, we say that we must not exceed rate and volume from
Right.
pre-existing,
Right.
okay, for discharges. But we don't say you have to contain so many inches of I mean, are we getting variation in how builders are interpreting the regulations regarding the size of the infiltration chambers, which can be very expensive?
Yes, we are.
We are. So not everybody's doing the same thing.
Right.
So I would think that the regulated community would like, I mean, is it your intent that the Eileen, in your opinion, does the bylaw actually imply that we should be infiltrating the 100-year storm?
I don't think it says that, but as I said, we sort of realize things as we're going along all the time. Oh, look, that's what this guy thinks this actually means. So this is part of why we thought that regulations would be a good idea, because there are things that we keep coming upon that we would like to be able to address just a little bit more, more practically, and we can do that more easily if we have it under regulations, and we can just. Our bylaw is pretty cumbersome, as Susan Cadillac knows very well, because I have no idea, 20, 30 hours with the general bylaw committee going through some of the details of this bylaw. I would really like to be able to just make it a little bit less cumbersome.
All right. Susan, you have anything further on this? I heard you say that you tend to favor that all changes should be reviewed by town meeting members, even the detailed technical ones. I'm not sure.
I think, oh, sorry.
I'm not sure that's the most practical way to do things, but I respect your opinion, Susan.
Yeah, I mean, I guess even just this conversation started out by saying that, no changes were being considered at this time, but then, conversation turned to changes that, are being considered. I'm sure that there are more, and that that's the reason behind why this change is wanting to be made. And, like I said, I guess my concern is just the history of what has been proposed in the past. Knowing that history, it's concerning that it's been this way for this long. And then, now just 2 years after we made major changes, every project has to have, an engineer to calculate the stormwater changes, and that has to be submitted. And we made all of these changes. And, now I'm hearing that, I don't know exactly what the issue is, but I'm hearing that more changes want to be made. And I guess I'm just, I just think that the residents have, should have this in front of them and know what's being proposed and know, how it affects them. And
First
if
of
it's
all,
not put in the front,
they will know what's being proposed, because there's usually an extended hearing process where we take and consider very carefully the input from both the residential and the business community regarding any changes. They are, at least by this particular body in town, they are not ignored. Those comments are not ignored at all.
Can I add something?
Okay.
I feel like the way I spoke may have made Susan think that I want to make wholesale changes. I don't, and I actually do fully understand where Susan's coming from with, we did make some fairly significant changes just a couple of years ago, but what we're finding is that those changes, the interpretation of those changes has not been, they've not been interpreted the same by everybody across the board. So, for example, Susan, we don't have any plans to make them any stricter than they are. We did ask that the stormwater plan for single-family homes now be stamped by an engineer. So that seems to have changed how everybody has interpreted, because the engineers are now taking it upon themselves to design something with chambers. It's not quite exactly what we all intended. So this is what I mean. When some of the changes that we make or have made have had slightly unintended consequences. We would just like the ability to be able to tweak those things as we go along and clarify them. It is not our intent to make anything stricter than it is. I think we're pretty strict as it is. Requiring a permit for every single-family home or for a large addition, I don't think it's our intent to have permits for anything smaller
You mean
than that.
a full permit?
Well, even an administrative permit. We have a good handle on what's happening through our administrative permits. I just want to make Susan realize, or make it clear to Susan that I'm not talking about making anything stricter, just where we realize that things are not being interpreted the way we anticipated. This would make us a little bit more.
So these are more observations and not details of intended changes. I mean, we haven't got anywhere near like that.
Right.
Okay. So Susan, that's where we are. We can, obviously, we're going to leave this, I guess the plan is to bring this matter before town meeting
Right.
and see if we can get them to agree.
So we are actually meeting Susan and her General Bylaw Review Committee board on Tuesday. Well, I am, and whoever else wants to appear. So we can see what they have to say to these changes at that point. And we said we would also open up the hearing for regulations, which have been just Susan, for your edification, just basically moved. We've taken what we had, we've just moved them into regulations. And that's where we are. I just
Right.
wanted to tell you all that we're going
Right.
to meet the general.
And I
bylaw.
will say, in the past, when you've had comments about the pragmatic aspects of things we were considering, the thing that comes to my mind at the moment is trees. And I think it was you, Susan, who made comments about trying to preserve trees along the sideline, the 15-foot sideline, and you had some very good comments. We took them seriously, and we changed the language, as you know. So I think you have some history of dealing with us. I hope you haven't found it unpleasant.
No, of course not. No, I mean, I'm not trying to be adversarial. I just want, like I said, I think the process has worked well in the past. I think that if there are things that need to be clarified, I think, I think if there's a conversation around it, I think that there's just a concern that with no conversation, I'm just trying to figure out, so if you're telling me that you're still going to do public hearings but you're essentially going to vote on your own changes versus bringing them in front of town meeting, that seems to be the only major change. And I kind of feel like that might reduce input from residents and reduce input from the community. And I feel like if changes need to be made, that should absolutely be discussed. And if there are issues happening and things need to be clarified, that should absolutely, happen and so that there's no, miscommunication, and so that everyone is, kind of playing by the same rules. But, some of the things that, that you're bringing up with making changes to trees and doing, different things like that, that would, that would impact everyone, but not what kind of putting it in front of the town representative it just doesn't seem like the right way to go about it, I guess.
I mean, I think from a practicality standpoint, if there's stuff I'm not proposing it for this particular process that we're in now, trying to get approval from town meeting, but if there's stuff in whether it ends up in regulations or it stays in a bylaw, you are free to bring them to our attention, and, at any time, we can have a discussion about it.
Yeah, no, you guys have been, great about, having conversations and being open to comments, so thank you for that.
Can I just also, before we close it up, if you were going to close it, can I just also reiterate, for Susan mostly, but anybody else who's interested, that the commission always always opens a hearing for something like regulation changes. So we changed our wetland regulation fees a few months ago, and we had a hearing open on that for several months before we closed it. So the process would be the same, Susan. Yes, it wouldn't go to all town meeting members necessarily, but we do disseminate that information to people like you to spread it further, that we are considering changing the regulations. So you would have the opportunity to have an input.
Thank you.
And in fact, the people who, because we outreach to people like you, Susan, to the major commercial players in town, whenever we're doing something like this, we actually get the input from people who understand the issues, and we can consider that as part of what we're doing. We've done that in the wetlands bylaw, and we would do the same thing with the stormwater bylaw. So I guess, is the intent, Eileen, to close the hearing
Close
tonight?
this hearing? No, I would leave it open.
Leave it, okay, oh, that's fine.
Oh, unless you have an objection to that.
No, unless the
I-
commission has an objection.
I don't think we, that's a good question. Once it goes to the General Bylaw Review Committee, yeah, I think we should, because let's see what they have to say.
Right.
So that you can, if they want to make some tweaks, especially on wording, we can still have it open so that we can accept those before we say, this is the,
Also, we're going to table the draft of taking everything out of the bylaw.
Yep.
All the technical stuff.
Yep.
And put it in a set of regulations, like almost most of all of the other towns do.
yes, most towns do.
Most towns do it that way. All right, okay, so I guess this discussion, Susan, is to be continued. Thank you very much for your input. I appreciate you taking the time to sit through all that other stuff and wait for this item.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I guess, could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for the proposed revisions to the stormwater and erosion and sedimentation bylaw? Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. All right, so I guess we can move off this item. Next is, we're on administrative things. Planning board comments? Is there anything?
No, just to, I guess, let you know that it's not comments to the planning board, but do you remember the General Walker Estates, Francis Wyman Road,
Yes.
Dartmouth Road subdivision? They are trying to close out that subdivision now, so we're just in the process of making, getting as-built plans in and making sure they're sort of squared away in case you just have any interest or have any comments on that whole process, because you were around for that.
Right.
A lot of you were anyway.
Next is subcommittee and staff reports. Anyone?
No, we don't.
Next is other business.
I have one item.
Yes.
I'll pass out a handout here. Just, I have been following the meetings of the high school building committee. And the last meeting, they began to show, I forget how many, maybe there was 7 or 8 different possible things to consider, from strictly repairs to renovating the current building to a totally new building to a hybrid version where you keep half of the old building, and there was all these variations. This is one that there's, in this very early planning stage, seems to be most likely to be the preferred early favorite, let's put it that way. The area called New 1 on here, to orient you, you would enter the property from the upper right, and you come down, that's the parking lot. That extension of the blue sticking out is the parking lot. The square part of it is that little rotary in front of the high school auditorium entrance. So the thought was that they could build an entire new high school on that piece of property.
New one.
On the parking lot?
Yeah. Yeah. 4 stories, 3 or 4 stories tall.
Where, here?
Yes.
And what about new 2? What is that?
That is going to be,
Swing site?
that was called New 2 is another discussion, but that's going to be removed. The whole old building.
So will they continue to have the school meeting in New 2 while New 1 is being built?
Yes. You would be able,
Quite big enough.
well, it's going to be taller, I guess. Plus, you don't need it as big as the old school, because the old school contains
True. Way
many
too
other
big.
things besides just the high school students. But the reason I brought it up is, the other benefit is you could build the high school, you could pass a bill to fund the building of the high school, and not even mention taking down the old one. Deal with that later. It could stand there. It could become temporary construction, housing for other projects or whatever. But anyways, if they were to build it on this new one, the things that came up, and I'm glad they're already thinking about this, that little highlighted blue area just above it
Yes.
is a flagged wetland.
Yes.
Wait, where?
Right above it, that
Oh, that's-
that little blue outline, those are the wetlands have already been flagged.
Where is the practice field on this diagram?
Oh, way up in the right.
It's over here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So the wetland scientists said that this area that's a wetland closest to the proposed construction is only technically a wetland, and does not feel as important as the other wetlands. And that is because it's only a wetland because we're making it one by drainage from the building and the site. That's what's making it a
The
wetland.
existing building?
Yes, and the parking lot pavement and everything else is flowing into it, creating this wetland. So it's a man-made wetland. They would consider, because it's less important than some of the other ones, taking it out and replicating it.
I see.
And that was an optional, something to be considered, is all they said. So I just thought I would bring that up because that's obviously the way they're talking about some of this stuff, and, anything is gonna have to deal with the wetlands. And one thing I don't see that wasn't discussed in that thing was, okay, so they build a new one here and they leave the old one there while they do it. Where's the parking gonna go? Where are all these, people gonna park their cars during school? I don't know.
There is also another issue, probably you can't do too much about on this, is downstream in Long Meadow Brook, there is some flooding. Okay? And
Some
is,
what, sorry?
on Long Meadow Brook, I think downstream there is flooding.
Oh, flooding.
So the question is there any opportunity where so much might be going on to construct a wetland in a certain position that would hold up some of the water because it slows the flow to help ease that problem?
So replication and problem solving.
And problem
Yeah,
solving.
yeah,
No, I mean, I just don't know if it works, but,
Right.
I mean, you have to have enough further upstream to hold up.
Right, and we'd have to have the whole plot shown here where all the wetlands are, where
Right,
the
right.
replication could be.
So
and
I'm
That's way downstream at the
So
moment.
I'm just
So-
saying this, Bill, for your benefit,
Mm-hmm.
so that if you're inserting a conservation view into this, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's a town meeting view, but both, but maybe you could sort of get that thought in there.
Okay, sure.
This is quite a bit lower than new two. New two, I mean, there's a hill as you go up here.
Mhm. There are 8 different floors inside the existing school. If you look at, then the ramp, then the ramp, then the ramp. There's 8 different floors inside that new building. And most of the ramps don't meet ADA codes. They're
Oh,
steeper.
yeah, it's a nightmare.
So, it's really a strange building, and
It's extremely.
how to
This
keep
is
part
not
of it is
exactly a
awkward
normal
and,
shape for a building, I have to say. This
well,
is-
it's what, you gotta work with what you have,
To
so.
me, it's very old. I see other high schools in other towns,
Oh, yeah, ours is
state of the art.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Waltham? It's amazing.
So anyways, this is the first mention I've
LHS
heard
is
of
ugly, though. Like-
dealing with the wetlands, and that's what they said, is that they are aware of them, they have flagged them, and they're considering them as they move
I
along.
don't know which architect designed the original building.
Brutalist architecture. It's brutalist. There's a school.
yeah.
It's supposed to express the
Well, I would,
grimness of
I would think an
life.
analysis of
It's
that
like
guy's
Boston City
brain
Hall.
could be very revealing.
Yeah, it is. It's the same school.
And what's even funnier is my 2 daughters used to go to classes with Burlington students. They said, that is the ugliest high school I've ever been in. You're in Lexington, you're saying that?
And there's a whole bunch of student rooms in it, classrooms that don't even have windows.
Oh, yeah,
This is
most of
exactly
them
what
went to
Lexington
list. I've had 4 kids go through it. My youngest is a senior right now. It is a terrible building.
Yeah, yeah. So, they're in the very early stages, but this is the first mention of wetlands, so I thought I'd bring it up.
All right.
That's really interesting.
I had also mentioned to you before that I heard from one of those guys from Tape, and they were talking about I suggested, and they agreed, they should do an ANRAD, so that we can all be on the same page about where the
Right,
wetlands
right.
really are and the value of those wetlands, because maybe he's right about them being sort of formed by drainage, but a lot of this was built on wetlands, so I'm not sure I necessarily give full
Mm-hmm. Right,
credence to
right.
that
Absolutely,
assertion.
absolutely. A very good-
Assertion, should I
Right,
say.
that's more of an assertion. I'm not sure that's documented yet.
So,
So how many
okay,
stories they have to?
but I.
3
yeah.
or 4.
The weird thing is, it seems like the whole building is being shifted to the wetter area of the site. That's-
Well,
Can't go the other way.
there's no place to put it
They had like
otherwise.
trailers on new 2 and demoed new, trailers on new 1 and demoed new 2 and put the new building there.
There was all kinds of options.
Yeah, I bet there's
you
a
know.
lot of talk.
Integrating half of the new building into half of the old building, there was all kinds of options.
And we have the same architect working on this project as the Fox Hill?
They did a good job.
I know Donna Donesco is still involved. She's not the architect, she's the design engineer for the whole project. I'm not sure if this is the same, I think Tape, is that the same architect? I don't remember.
I've heard the name before, but is it for the school? Fox Hill, I mean?
I don't know.
I'm not sure either, but I've definitely.
It certainly would be good if we could do something by replicating wetlands that would also solve a problem. That would really be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do
It
it
would have
right.
to be carefully designed. So, just speaking of that, there's a couple of projects like there's one in Reading where they've sort of been making constructed wetlands partly for stormwater management and treatment. They can be very effective. So in fact, there's going to be a tour of their Reading one on October 24th. I assume everyone's welcome. Maybe I shouldn't assume, but I got an invitation, so
Well, the
we can all go.
important people were invited. All right, next meeting is October 24th. Of course, if you can't make it, please let the office know. And the next one after that is November 14th. As per our standard schedule, there'll be one meeting in November, and that will be November 14th. Okay, is there anything else? Could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? 600. Have a good evening, everyone.